welcome to my class. Today we are going to discuss contribution of Louis Terman and the test he developed, which was basically the Stanford Binet test. So we'll look into that test, which has a good contribution to the field of intelligence testing, same as Binet Simon test. So when you see this Terman is actually an exceptional child, because at the age of 15, personally, if you look at the history of it, personal background of this Terman, age of 15, he has joined teacher education, joined for teacher education, and by age of 21, he had 3 degrees with him, and he was a principal of a very small college, age of 21. Okay, and he was considered as a genius. At that point, the students, those who have good intellectual capacity, they will be promoted. They still have that programs, so they will be promoted to the higher classes if they're intellectually very good, like that. So Terman has a background like that, and he was so much of interested in intelligence. Terman also was interested in phrenology, and he has made some statements like some of the phrenology predictions were very good in his life, like that. Anyway, had not much done. I mean, phrenology has not much contribution to the field of intelligence. The contribution of intelligence. Phrenology. His perspective about phrenology was didn't majorly influence his contribution to the field of intelligence. Okay. Anyway, so Stanford Stanford Binet intelligence scale. It was developed by Louis Terman. What he did is he looked into this Binet-Simon test, the 1908 revision, that is second revision of this test, and he administered that test to 400 children in USA. And he also read different papers done by Binet and Simon, based on his this administration of this test in different population. And he realized that there are some issues with this test, the task included. So what he did is, in his evaluation, at the lower age, mental age or mental levels, tasks are too easy, and the higher age, the tasks are too hard. So he said we need to change a little bit that part, and he also wanted to include 6 tests at each level. Earlier it was 5. Now he wanted to change that to 6 tests, so he ended up in almost 36 new tasks in his new version. Now his first, the final Stanford Binet test, he has administered that to a big sample, which was 905 participants were there. That's a big sample. Just imagine about that. And he had around 90 items, so it became a very huge big test. Almost 60% of items were from Binet Simon scale. This version, okay, because by this time they have the Binet and Simon has developed their next revision, the third revision. So 60% of the items were from this particular revision, okay, and other 40 were from their own contribution, and others' contribution also were included in this particular scale. So that's how the first Stanford Binet test was developed. And if you look at the combination of it, so there were 6 task activities at each age level from 3 to 10. Okay, 8 items at the age of 12, 6 items at the age of 14, 6 items at 2 adult level, average adult and superior adult, like that. So if you look at the third revision of the Binet Simon test, there was only 1 adult level, and they had 2 adult level, which was average adult and superior adult. And 16 alternate tests were available for tests that were inappropriate or otherwise spoiled. So there were an extra 16 alternative tests also developed to understand human intelligence in the Standford Binet test, first version, 1916 version of it. Okay, now they used a new scoring system. This is the place where the IQ, the term IQ comes. It is not the Terman who used this IQ. Instead, the idea was Stern, William Stern, in 1914. They used the term intelligence quotient and concept of IQ, and they started to adopt this. Terman wanted to use this ideology in his testing. And what intelligence quotient was actually a child's mental age, that is MA, and divide by CA into 100. That was the idea of the IQ. So this was used in Stanford Binet test. So that's a big change here. This point onwards, every intelligence test actually use the term IQ. So it's a big change in the field of intelligence testing, and it was multiplied with 100. The reason for multiplying this was 100 actually was to eliminate the decimal points. But what happened was, when you do like that, obviously the score is going to be, the average is going to be 100. So if a person mental age is 3 and chronological age is also 3, multiply with 100, this is going to be 100. So the center point is going to be the 100. So that from 100, the relative to 100, where a person stands. That's how intelligence were interpreted. He was actually, Terman was actually a critical of Spearman works, Charles Spearman. What was Charles Spearman was? He was believed in a general intelligence. Hope you remember this G factor. So he was a critic of this idea, but he explicitly stated that the test that he has developed, Stanford Binet test, actually measure the general intelligence of the idea of general intelligence proposed by this Spearman, and that was a little ironic. But he was a non-critic of the Spearman's work of general intelligence. Okay, so basically he said that his test measure general intelligence. Now, when it comes to the first revision, 1937, in the revision, then they developed two forms, which is L form and M form. By this time, he as a scholar, a new person is adding, co-author is adding with him. Her name was Merrill. So they developed two parallel form. One is L form, other was M form, and they have administered this test to almost 3,200 samples, a huge sample. So a parallel form was developed in this version, and in the later versions, what they have done is they have taken the best items from the form L and form M and developed much more better scales. So by the for the next revision, Terman passed away. He had lung-related diseases, and he passed away. And so when you look at the 1960th revision, Merrill was working with that. Merrill was contributing to that much more. So so this is the place they officially use the term IQ, not IQ actually. It was actually deviation IQ. What was deviation IQ? The idea was the variance or standard deviation of the respondents at different mental levels, mental age, were varying. So they wanted to standardize that to a score of 16. Now some other classification system currently use 15. For example, Wechsler uses a classification system of 15, but they want to keep a point like 100 as a center point, which is the average, and 16 as a standard deviation. So they made every test, every age group transform to this format, which is called as deviation IQ. So this point, in this revision, they officially use the term deviation IQ. So when it comes to the fourth revision, we don't have Merrill here. That is another person, Thorndike, Hagen, and Sattler. They made the fourth revision of it. They made some radical changes in that. For example, they converted this age level to point scale format, and they have taken it back also. So in this revision, they made some real radical changes, and there were some discrete factors to, like general fluid indolence and crystallized indolence, that extended theory of that fluid and crystallized intelligence. So some of the factors were discrete, specific factors were developed for that. So there was some kind of big movement happened in that area. And also identification for the gifted children program. So one of the objective of this revision was to identify children with the really intellectual capacity, good intellectual capacity, basically gifted children. So how they have achieved that? They try to include a little more hard items, difficult items in the lower mental age, so that children with that capacity can be identified. So that was some of the changes that they did. But when it comes to fifth revision, some of these radical movements are taken out, and it came back to the older version of it. Now when it comes to the when you evaluate this test, for example, this Standford Binet test, this is one of the most frequently used psychological tests, including intelligence test in the United States for decades. If you look at some of the statistics, this was given by Thorndike. Almost 150,000 people are administered during this year. 5 lakh people were administered during this. 8 lakh people were administered during this year. See that it was such a widely used test in the field of intelligence or psychological test. If you look at, let it be intelligence test or psychological test. So I would say all over the world at that point, this was a most famous test. So Standford Binet test was such an important test in the history of intelligence. One of the reasons for its popularity was its connection with educational benefits. So it has a close relationship with academics, and people with the higher intellectual capacities could have, the test was useful to identify them, and even gifted children were identified using this test. So it's highly connected with the education system. So the educationalists, especially school management, use this test very frequently, and that's one of the reasons for the popularity of this particular test. Now come the fifth edition, which is the current edition, which was actually by Royd. So this also was developed based on schooling process. So education process has a role, influence in the development of test, or even in the response to the test. So that means the formal education has something to do with the intelligence measurement. So what if people are not formally educated? How will that influence the performance of a child? So that's a very serious question. Then all levels of abilities were included in that. Multiple dimensions of abilities were included in that. Another aspect is from year 2, the classification, the measurement starts. It has 10 subsets, both verbal and non-verbal are included. That's as older versions. Now 5 factors also included. Based on the theory, that is hierarchical model of cognitive abilities developed by Cattell, Anhorn and Carroll. These 3 people have developed the hierarchical model of cognitive abilities. So that also has captured in this, which includes fluid reasoning, knowledge, quantitative reasoning, visual spatial processing, working memory, like that. So this spectrum also included in the Binet scoring system. So it can range from different level. For example, the administration range from 15 minutes to 1 hour and 15 minutes based on the age and ability. Okay, so it's a wide, like flexible kind of test. It gives 4 intelligence composite scores and 5 factor indexes, then 10 subset scores, then it also gives percentile rank, age equivalent rank, change sensitive scores, and also extended IQ and gifted composite score. See that, gifted composite score along with the 4 other intelligence composite scores. So a bigger scoring system currently we are using. 2003, I guess. After that, we don't have much developments in this area. One reason is Wechsler scale has become very famous by this time. So it actually took the market compared to this Standford Binet test. One of the reason. Okay. So this was a classification system they had. So they also adopted the idea of deviation IQ. This is the place where when it start with the Binet, even one time Simon was saying that it's a betrayal to the Binet, because he never wanted to use a term IQ or a comprehensive score like that. So if you look at it, average score is 90 to 109, that is 100, 10 below, 10 above, like that. So if you will see this 10 classifications here, some changes in between. So this is how they classified those who are intellectually very good or intellectually for example impaired or delayed, like that. So this was a classification system they had. So when it comes to India, in 1967, we had a test developed by V.V. Kamath. So this was Indian version of SB2, the second version, okay, of SB, then Standford Binet second version. So this was developed by Kamath in 1967. I think this is the most common test used in India. He developed this test among the population was people from Karnataka and Marathi. So the test language were basically Kannada and Marathi. So we use this test very frequently in Indian context. This was something like when you talk about intelligence test in India, this is the test, like that. But recently, the Wechsler 4 has Indian edition also. So when they started to include that, made norms, when they made norms for Indian version, people started to use that also. But still, we cannot think about a course or an MPhil course without a training in BKT. Almost every education institutions in India will have BKT in their lab, and students will be trained in that one. So the age level of this BKT is 3 to 22, and age levels at all age levels available, 6 tests are there. The way in which IQ is calculated is like this: 100 plus correction factor. So correction is basically IQ from BKT, that is calculated score based on the age of the child participant. Then mean of BKT, which is 100. Standard deviation of BKT is 18.7, and this score is multiplied by a standard deviation of Wechsler adult intelligence scale, which is 15, like that. So this is how we calculate the total score of IQ score for Binet Kamath test, which is generally used in India. Now, when you look at the weakness of the test, there can be a lot of weakness, because we have to think about the tradition of this test. It has developed from 1905. So some of the pattern like mental age and all, still we are following it. Other tests doesn't have the idea of the basal age or age where all tests are passed, like that. Ceiling age, this idea is not included in other tests. So it has a tradition, and the time at which this test was developed has a theoretical understanding, and we have moved a lot from that theoretical understanding. So this all will contribute to the current evaluation of this test. Okay, so when you look at the one of the major weakness is its theoretical understanding or definite the way we define intelligence, or the way they define intelligence, or the test define intelligence. Intelligence is considered as a composite general score, or general ability as per the idea of conceptualization of this particular test, which is very narrow in nature. We know that multiple aspects of intelligence are discussed now. When you look at the Thurston's idea or Gardner's idea, so intelligence is not considered as a stable, like general ability now. So that's one of the major limitation of this test. And other aspect is, when you look at intelligence, a wide variety of cognitive activities has to be there, which is not actually captured in this, in BKT. I'm sorry, Binet, not only Binet Commerce test, basically Stanford Binet test. Limited number of cognitive activities are included in that. A full range of intelligence to explain or measure full range of intelligence. Wide variety of cognitive activities are expected to be included, which is not done here. And there are some scholars who argue that there are cultural biases. People from some culture tend to perform very well to this test, for especially the place where it is developed, like USA. Like they have a bend to this, so they tend to perform very well. So one of the other criticism. And test taker skills, that's very interesting. Like I guess many intelligence tests has this problem. Like test taker skill influence the performance of the participant. So a person who's really good and well trained and with good abilities, when they administer the test, the score tend to be more genuine, more authentic compared to other people. So skill of the person who administered test also will influence the scores of a participant on this particular in these tasks. So that's a vulnerability, that's a weakness of the particular test. Like that, there can be multiple weakness like that. I mean, there are multiple disadvantages like that. These are some of the famous, most discussed kind of weaknesses. So this is about the Stanford Binet test and the extension of Stanford Binet test in the current context. Currently, we are using Stanford Binet 5. In India, we still use BKT as our primary method to measure intelligence. Okay, that's it.